thank everybody for coming out tonight for our second annual Hall of Fame class with our Night of Champions. And we'll go into more detail as far as the night. What we want to do, where we have some new exciting things here at Triton, and we have some of our alumni coming back from that before, you know, when they knew it as kind of that turf, the grass field that we had, kind of known as the swamp to our current students. We had a little transformation this past October, thanks to the members of the three communities, our school community, our school council, our superintendent. We had a lot of work that a lot of people put into, and we have a small video that we just wanted to show you, just some highlights from our opening night. It was a great opening night for us, and one of the things that we talked about as a committee was it wasn't just about this year's student athletes and the student athletes of the future. The student athletes of the past, and a lot of you here came through the Triton Athletic Organization, really set the foundation for the opening of the stadium. And it was just a tremendous night. We're really looking forward to many more evenings, afternoons for a lot of our student athletes, for our community members to get out there and walk the track. And we just wanted to show you what was going on there. You know, from a first-hand experience, I will say we didn't have to cancel any boys lacrosse or girls lacrosse games this spring, which was a blessing. On a day like today, we could actually play out there on our turf, which really helps out. And we all wanted to say thank you to everybody in this room for making that possible. So my name is Sean McGinnis. I'm the current athletic director at Triton High School. And for those of you that have been around me and interacted, the first thing I have to do is break up my cell phone so I don't go over my minutes, because I seem to talk a little bit longer than I need to at times. So we're gonna really limit this here. The first thing I like to do is welcome our distinguished guests and honorees, and we will have our head of our Hall of Fame committee come up in just a moment and introduce them. We will introduce later our Night of Champions. Our Hall of Fame class, this is our third Hall of Fame class at Triton. We reinstituted 2 years ago, and we had a great group of student athletes go in there. And this year it was even tougher for selection because we had a lot of outstanding former Triton student athletes that had applied, and the selection was fantastic. The committee did a great job. And also part of this night is our Night of Champions. We invite our current student athletes that have won distinguished awards throughout the league, whether they're Cape Ann League champions, whether they've set milestones that very few have set, or they've received awards at the state level. We wanted to invite them because they're going to be the future inductees, hopefully, of this group. And it's a small group, it's a great family group that you want to be part of. The first people that we'd like to introduce tonight, and if you could just either small stand up and be acknowledged, as our superintendent, first year, is Brian Forget. Our first year principal, Tim Ruggieri of the high school. Our middle school principal and former offensive lineman for the Triton Vikings, Alan McRae. From our school committee, we have chairperson Ms. Dina Sullivan, Ms. Monique Relish, Ms. Deb Choate, and Ms. Maureen Madigan. At this time, I would like to invite up the Hall of Fame chairperson, Stacy Bolio, for her opening remarks.
First, I would like to thank our administration, school committee, principals, and superintendent and athletic director for all your support in allowing us to have this second annual biannual event. Tonight doesn't happen without a lot of hard work and organization of many people. And I'd like to start by introducing and thanking the members of the Hall of Fame committee, starting with Mr. Brad Smith, who I think is in the back. Mr. Smith is a long time coach, teacher, and community member at Triton. Thank you. Also on the committee, not quite as many longs, Mrs. Donna Anderson, also a coach, teacher, alumni, and Hall of Fame member herself. And only as long as I have been along, so not many longs at all. Mr. Sean McGilligan, who is also a coach, teacher, and alumni. So for this next part, I'm going to change Sean's name to Mac, the way I call him, because it's going to get confusing. Mac and I had been talking a long time about how we could make this Hall of Fame a regular tradition at Triton. In the first class that was inducted in 1997, and then there was a gap. And the first committee members we wanted to take a minute today to recognize, because they are here in this room, Carol Christie, Yvonne Van Gore, and Ron Cockran. And we want to take a minute and thank you for getting the Hall of Fame started in '97. But Sean and I spent some time and as alumni and coaches, and we wanted to continue the tradition that our coaches and teachers had started, but we were really at a loss at how to get that started. And that loss we found when our last committee member, thank you. Mac and I realized not shortly after meeting our new, at the time, AD, that this was the man to get this done. Father Christmas, as I like to call him, for his energy and enthusiasm and ability to get things done, was just the man that was going to get an event like tonight going. Mac and I went to him in the fall of 2014, and we asked if he would help us restart the tradition of the Hall of Fame. And just 8 short months later, that June, we inducted the second class, the class of 2015, into the Hall of Fame. And tonight, we're inducting the third class of 2017. So please help me in a big thank you to our committee member and athletic director, Sean McGinnis. As I tried to walk around the room frantically, hoping that I wouldn't miss anybody, but I think I got them. I know that we do have some Hall of Fame members in the house tonight. From the class of 2015, I believe, if you could just stand and be recognized, I believe Maureen Madigan is here. Yvonne Van Gore. And I believe members of and coach of the 1977-78 boys cross country team are in attendance tonight. And I believe there are at least 1 or 2 members of the 83-84 wrestling team also in attendance tonight. Also from the class of '97, Donna Moldini Anderson, and sorry, I lost my place. Scott Bateman are also here tonight. So welcome them and congratulations. Finally, tonight we're honoring the past accomplishments of 5 athletes and 1 coach, along with recognizing current Triton athletes and teams that have K-Fan League titles and awards. So the last thank you we have tonight goes to the Triton Education Foundation for putting on this great event so we can recognize all these amazing athletes. Please help me in thanking them for their generous contribution again this year to this event. We look forward to working with them and holding this biannual event again in 2019. So thank you to the members of the Triton Education Fund that are in. They're somewhere. And they have raffles out front that help support their foundation. They do great things for schools, so please do your part there. At this time, I'd like to bring Ms. McGinnis back up.
And our student athletes have worked tremendously hard in 3 categories. That's in the classroom, on the courts, and in our communities. And this year, it's been tremendous as far as the outpouring of community service that our student athletes have done. We've had student athletes that conducted the toys for homeless shelters over the winter. We've had student athletes go out and work in the community to refurbish general areas. They've donated times at the senior centers. And our student athletes are much more than just athletes. Our student athletes also, out of 25 teams, we had 19 that made the state tournament, which is a great accomplishment for us. We had 6 individual Cal champions. We had 1 team Cal championship, which is still playing, our boys lacrosse team. We had a 2-time state champion in a brand new program for us in its infancy stages of only 3 years. But the real meat and potatoes of this athletic program is the fact that we have 43 teams in our athletic program. 40 of them received the MIA Academic Gold Achievement Award, which is a team GPA of 3.0 or higher. The other 3 teams still received an award. They received the Silver Award. They had just missed it with GPAs of the 2.9 and 2.95, which is a Silver Award for the MIA. And I think they also deserve a round of applause. At this time, we'd like to start to hand out some awards prior to the dinner being served. And what I'd like to do is have them called up, and they'll just come up and to receive their awards. And this will be up for our current student athletes. The first student athlete, we have had a swim program for 3 years or 4 years now. I'm losing track here as I'm getting older. This was one of our first team members as a 7th grader. As a 7th grader, this person came in, and now, as she's leaving to that next level in the high school stages, she set a Division I MIA state record for her swimming. Not only that, this season, Maggie Summit was a 2-time state champion for Division I, which is for the largest schools in the state. Maggie Summit won the D1 state championship for the 50 free and the 100 free. And we'd like to have Maggie come up and be acknowledged at this time. His brother was a tremendous golfer here for Triton, and there was no doubt this young man was going to be the next great golfer in the family. I'm not looking forward to their golfing experiences over the summer because they're both so competitive. I'm sure that turns into a little bit of a verbal discussion out on the golf courses. However, Connor Small will now be the distinguished Cape Ann League Open champion for the entire league, for the Cape Ann League. Connor has done a tremendous job while here at Triton, and in my 4 years, he is one of the only Cape Ann League Open champions that we've had. And we'd like to acknowledge Connor Small at this time to come up for his Cape Ann League championship. The next student started to receive his accolades from the athletic program earlier this week, actually early last week. He was named the Triton Student Athlete of the Career. He was a 3-sport captain, and it's no doubt why all 3 sports excelled. Liam Spillane was our football captain and played 4 years on varsity. He was a basketball captain, played 4 years on varsity, and he's our lacrosse leader and captain, 4 years on varsity. This year, he led the team to the Division III North Championship for football. He led the boys basketball program back to the state tournament, and he is also one of the 13 seniors that is leading our boys lacrosse program to the semifinals tomorrow in the Division III North tournament. Liam Spillane will be continuing to play at base, and Liam Spillane was also the Cape Ann League Offensive Football Player of the Year. Come on up, Liam. His success for the football team, and Liam, I'm sure, owes a big gratitude and thanks. And there's no doubt when you have the top running back in the league, the top lineman in the league follows right behind. John Falaska was voted the Cape Ann League Lineman of the Year for the Division III North champions. John Falaska did a tremendous job both offensively and defensively, and was a big part of Coach Sheehan's team. So this year's Cape Ann League Lineman of the Year is John Falaska. Come on up, John. So John gets to stay again, because after Coach Sheehan and Coach Mack had finished their football season with him, Coach Mack got him in wrestling. And the tradition of Triton wrestling goes deep. It's a very storied history, and John Falaska made his mark on that history. John Falaska also was the heavyweight champion for the Cape Ann League Wrestling. So at this time, we'd also like to recognize John for his Cape Ann League championship. The next person we'd like to speak about was Sarah Stackpole. It was a great thing when Coach Colbert finally got back out onto a track and we were able to have a home meet. And it was no doubt in his mind that he was going to have at least one or two Cape Ann League champions. And one of the things he said was, I really think Sarah's going to win that Cape Ann League championship if she keeps working hard. The day after the Cape Ann League championship, I was talking to Coach and he said it happened. Sarah Stackpole was the Cape Ann League champion for the discus, which is something tremendously hard for our school to do because it's still in that infancy stage of having our own track. And Sarah and her coaches really were prepared for that championship run, and we like to bring up Sarah Stackpole as the discus champion for the Cape Ann League. It's a small exclusive club, and being a basketball person, that club is extremely tough to break into. It is a 1,000-point club. We've had so few here at Triton that just trying to find a time to put a banner up has been challenging. This year, we had a newest member of the 1,000-point club. Tessa LaFrance had a tremendous career here at Triton and worked extremely hard. And she was focused not on that 1,000-point club, but as far as taking Triton to that next level. She returned to the state tournament in 3 out of her 4 years, her last 3 years. And the reason why it was turned there was because of the work that she and her coach and her teammates put into it. I can't wait to watch that banner finally go up in 1 month's time with all the 1,000-point scorers on there. And Tess, I will be letting you know that there is a 1,000-point scorer in this year's Hall of Fame inductee group that you will be soon part of with them. I have no doubt of that. So this year's 1,000-point scorer, Tessa LaFrance. Tessa will be going to Endicott next year to continue her education and play basketball. The next person, the next person we'd like to introduce is a freshman. I remember speaking to her sister a couple of years ago, and she said, "Oh, my brother is a middle schooler on our wrestling team." We had very few members for 1 year, and we had a middle schooler come out, and I was talking to Abby Ostrander, and she was telling me about her brother was coming up, and what a great wrestler he was going to be. He was going to be awesome. She used to go to all the matches. She was so proud. And this year, when Abby leaves, she's like, "I know he's going to do it. He's going to be awesome. I can't wait." Well, Abby, you were absolutely right. This year's 150-pound champion for the Cape Ann League was a freshman, Anthony Ostrander. And Anthony is going to be great for him. Okay, the next group that I like to bring up, I'm going to bring up as a group, so if we could hold our applause until they get up here as a group. Our boys lacrosse team. This year was a great year for them. Just the story repeats itself. We opened a new stadium. We got to play at home. We got a senior night when it was actually dark out with lights. It was a fantastic thing, and they've shown all the work that they've put into it. We've had 13 very strong senior class go through, and they've left their mark, and they continue to leave their mark. Tomorrow, unfortunately today, because we're playing at a different school that doesn't have turf, we got rained out. So tomorrow we will return to the grass fields at Pingree to play Hamilton Wenham, to play for the chance to get to the North Championship. And they recently just had practice, and we appreciate the 5 student athletes coming out as well as their 2 coaches. And I'd like to call up John DeFuma, Ben Rouzier, Liam Spillane, Jed Cutter, and Sean Greeny up to the podium. Cutter will be going to the Air Force Academy, correct? Jed, Air Force Academy, he's received an appointment there. And Liam again will be going to Bates to participate in football, and I'm sure once he gets there, they will be talking him into lacrosse on the club level, the school level. So congratulations to our current student athletes. At this time, one of the main reasons that we're able to have an event like this and continue building the Hall of Fame is the continual support of the Triton Education Foundation. And each time we're able to do this event, I put it out there to them, and I get a resounding yes. How can we get involved, and how can we sponsor this? And it's not only about this event, but they do so much more for the Triton School District. They started the process of the building of the new stadium. They were one of the founding people starting that process, and they continue to this day to help build and improve the stadium and some of the enhancements that we're looking to make. Today, representing the Triton Education Foundation, I would like to introduce you to Tom Gustafson, their secretary.
When Sean asked the Triton Education Foundation once again to sponsor the Triton Night of Champions and Hall of Fame inductee ceremonies, we couldn't have been more excited. We feel feel this event truly represents the spirit and character of the Triton community by celebrating the group of high-achieving current and former student athletes and leaders in the classroom, on the fields, and in the community. We believe this event epitomizes the true meaning and high ideals established throughout the Triton Regional School District. Give you a little more. As you know, the Triton Education Foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 charitable foundation that's committed to supporting and enhancing the educational experience of all students in the district. The foundation spearheads fundraising initiatives required to support funding requests by teachers and the school administration within the district, requests that go beyond budgetary constraints. TEF is governed by a board of directors comprised of community members and volunteers and non-voting administrators who work in collaboration with the school district. Our funding comes completely with the donations and grants made by foundations, businesses, and individuals like you. We provide donors and the opportunity to make tax-deductible donations, memorial contributions, and pledges and other gifts. We rely fully on contributions from outside resources to support our mission of enhancing educational enrichment and athletics throughout the entire school district. We'd like to thank all the contributions we've received tonight, and we'd also like to thank all our sponsors and all of everybody that donated the raffle tickets this evening. And we would also like to thank a big shout out to Seaglass once again for graciously hosting this event for us this evening. Thank you, Seaglass. As you've also seen, in addition to the raffles, we're also continuing the brick purchase campaign. Funds raised for the second phase of this brick campaign will be earmarked for funding for the final piece of the stadium project, which is the addition of a state-of-the-art press box. Tonight we're here to support our athletic community, past, present, for their outstanding accomplishments and contributions. From this year's competitors and champions within the K-Band League, state, district levels along the Triton alumni, coaches, and athletes who we're here honoring and inducting into the Hall of Fame. Again, the Triton Education Foundation is very proud to once again sponsor this event. We want to congratulate all the champions here tonight, both current and future student athletes, and the newest inductees into, of course, the prestigious Triton Hall of Fame. So congratulations to everybody here tonight, and thank you all, and we hope you have a memorable and enjoyable evening. Thank you.
Now we'd like to start the portion of our program that honors our Hall of Fame members. The Hall of Fame members for Triton, I love when this family grows because it shows that the tradition continues to grow. We talk about the Hall of Fame, but let's start with the basics. Where is it? The Hall of Fame is located at a place called the Tees at Triton. If you go outside of the middle school gym and you turn right as if you headed towards the academic wing, you will see right there on the wall there's the Hall of Fame. We have 2 retired jerseys and we have all of the Hall of Fame plaques. Tonight's inductees will be added to that wall within the next 2 weeks. So we hope that you can come and join us for a home sporting event next year and take time to go see your plaques hanging on the wall. Each member this evening will be receiving a plaque for them to take home. There is a mirrored plaque that will be posted on that wall, again, within 2 weeks, we're hoping. In that general area, one thing that the Triton Athletics Wing has lacked, and I would call it a deficiency for us because we do have a small one in a different location, but a group of student athletes have gotten together with a committee to fund and build a trophy case. That trophy case will hopefully be ready and available for the beginning of the school academic year 2017. That trophy case is located across from the Hall of Fame, so you'll be able to see the trophies and plaques of past and current accolades of our student athletes and their teams. So now, without any further ado, I would like to start the evening's process. The first inductee that we would like to induct is Neil Patrick Hickey, and introducing him will be his coach, Mr. Richard Clark.
Neil Hickey, a great captain and leader, great work ethic, and a natural born runner. Some people are just born natural athletes. They're strong, they're fast, they're well coordinated, and that's generally because they have an abundance of white muscle fiber. Those would be your sprinters, your power lifters, etc. But there's another type of muscle fiber, red muscle fiber. You can think of it as when you eat a chicken or a turkey, some people like dark meat, some people like white meat. White meat is the breast muscle, where the bird gets its power and strength to fly. Dark meat are the legs and the back. And the reason it's red muscle fiber is because it contains a substance called myoglobin, similar to hemoglobin, because it holds oxygen. This gives the person endurance. Some people have an abundance of red muscle fiber, and they're natural. Neil was a natural. In the 9th grade, he set the course record for cross country. He was on the track team and he ran the mile and 2 mile varsity. In the northern area meet, which is a huge amount of the teams in northeastern Massachusetts, he placed 2nd for the freshman. And he was cross-country all-state selection freshman year. It's been said that it's not the will to win that makes the difference, but the will to prepare to win that makes the difference. What does that mean? Well, if you're a distance runner, that means a lot of running, a lot of miles. And you know what that takes? That takes perseverance and a great work ethic. In 1978, Neil set the record for the mile at Triton at 4 minutes and 31 seconds. That was 39 years ago, and nobody's beaten it since. Why? I'm sure that there are people with more natural ability that have walked the halls of Triton, but unfortunately, probably a lot of them never came out. And those who did, probably a lot of them were inconsistent. You see, a lot of runners, they come out for cross country in the fall, and they get better and better, and they're naturally good, but then it comes winter, and it's cold. So they just take the winter off. And they come out for spring track, and within a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, they're just as good as they were at the end of the cross country season. And they get better and better, and then they take the hot summer off. And if you could kind of graph their progress, it would be up and down like this, where they have troughs and plateaus. And they end up, probably their senior year, being the best on the team, but nowhere as near as they could. Neil had a great work ethic and perseverance. At the end of the cross-country season, he'd continue to run in the long, long, cold winter, and in the ice and snow. Probably, I'm sure, of times he didn't, feel like running. And then he'd go out for spring track, and he was better than he was at the end of the cross-country season. And he'd run the track season, and then he'd run during the summer. In the summer, he'd get into local races like the Newburyport Yankee Homecoming race. And yes, the Mount Washington Auto Road race. Yeah, he ran up Mount Washington several times. I think that's an 8-mile race. Anyhow, perseverance. So if you graph his progress, he just kept getting better and better and better. Whereas an inconsistent runner would get better, but not make the progress. And there's something else. If you're young and you're growing and your organs are growing, you develop a big set of lungs, huge set of lungs from all that aerobic activity. And you develop a huge muscular heart. You take the top runners that finished in the Boston Marathon, and some of them might be little skinny people, but every one of them, if you x-ray their lungs, has a huge set of lungs and a huge muscular heart. And that enables them to operate aerobically when everyone else drops out and goes anaerobic. And so By the end of his career at Triton, Neil was, in the 11th grade, undefeated Cape Ann League champion in cross country. He set the Cape Ann League record for the mile in the 12th grade. And as I just said, in the 12th grade, 1978, he set the Triton record for the mile at 4 minutes and 31 seconds. He was all-state individual selection in cross country, and he was MVP on the track team. So he just continued to improve. There's something that's so important to a team, and that's leadership. But not just leadership, leadership with a winning attitude. When I came to Triton in the early 1970s, I'd earned a varsity letter in cross country from the University of Maine. And the coaching position in cross country was open, so I jumped for it. The first few years, there was only a boys team, and we had some really outstanding runners. But we had 2 losing seasons right off. And every coach wants to establish a winning record, a winning program. But it's just not going to happen without that winning attitude. And those first 2 teams didn't have a winning attitude, unfortunately. And you can't do it as a coach by yourself. We had this kid on the team named Tim Hickey. He wasn't much of a runner, but boy was he a good team leader. He was class president, and what an attitude, great winning attitude. And just like a losing attitude, a winning attitude tends to get instilled into a team. And without that, you're not going to go anywhere. And then a few years later, along came his younger brother, Marty Hickey. I'm getting this trend here. Anyhow, Marty Hickey, another great leader. And after high school, Marty went in the Army. And the Army instantly recognized his leadership ability, sent him to officer candidate school. He worked his way up through the officer ranks and retired a full colonel. Great leader with a great attitude. Then along came Neil Hickey. Neil had everything. He had the natural ability. He had that hard work attitude that rubs off on the other people, perseverance. And he was a great leader with the ability to inspire others to win. So in the 12th grade, he was team captain for the track team. And guess what? They were Cape Ann League champs. And in the 12th grade, he was cross-country captain. And guess what? We won the state divisional championship. And he received the cross-country coaches award for excellence. He richly deserves to be in the Triton Hall of Fame, not only because of his athletic accomplishments, but because he was a great inspirational leader. On the girls' team, after a few years, we had a girls' program, and we had some great leaders. Dawn Barcelona, Margaret Callahan. And so after things got up and running, it was just one winning season right after another with both the boys and the girls. The boys won the Cape Ann League Championship in '77. The girls, and as a coach, it was just uplifting to go out there after school, and you could just feel it. There's this winning attitude, this go get them, we're gonna win attitude out there, and it was just fun to be a coach, you know. And at the beginning of seasons, there was never a question of, well, are we going to have a winning season this year? It was always a question of how far are we going to go with both the boys and the girls team, because in the years that they didn't win the Cal Championship, Both the boys and the girls, they were always contenders, you know, and it was fun. Let me digress here a bit. The Hickey family. They're 9 kids. They're athletes, leaders, and war heroes. Athletes. Of the 9 kids, all of them, all 9 were either 2 or 3 sport athletes. Leaders. 8 out of the 9 were team captains. Some of them multiple team captains. 2 were class presidents. War heroes. Mr. Hickey was awarded the Bronze Star. Marty was awarded the Bronze Star. And Neil's nephew has been awarded the Bronze Star for heroism in combat. And so I'm privileged tonight to speak for Neil Hickey, a remarkable athlete from a remarkable family. Thank you.
I'd like to start by taking a minute to say thanks to a few people that have helped me along the way and shown me a lot of support. First with my mom and dad for all the love and support they've always shown me. My wife, Patricia, putting up with me. My sister, Anne Marie, for nominating me. And my brother, Marty, for doing all those training runs together. My brother, Timmy, who got me started in cross country as the 7th grader. And my brother Mike, who's here tonight and was also part of the 77 championship team. And I was fortunate enough during my time at Triton to be part of the 3 championship teams. As Mr. Clark alluded to, the undefeated championship team in 1976 for cross country, Triton's first state championship in 77 in cross country, and elite championship track team in 1978. I'd like to thank all of those teammates for making all those championships such a great time. So let's start this at the beginning, make it quick. Back in 72 as a 7th grader, I joined both the cross country and track team. It was fun being on a team, traveling to all those different schools, you know, with a lot of new friends. I was just a middle of the pack runner at that point, but after finishing second in a road race just after school let out that year, I decided it was time to start running. Which I started running 5 to 10 miles every day, something I would do just about every day for the next 5 years. All that running makes a big difference in a kid that's only 13 years old. So starting the next fall, I was out there, instead of being in the middle of the pack, I was up at the front, even scoring points for the varsity on occasion. When I was doing some research through some old magazine clippings, I came across an article quoting Mr. Clark, and he just said, after he made a couple of course records as a JV runner, he said, this is Mr. Clark's quote in the Newburyport paper. He said, this kid is just out of it. He's small for his age, his legs are too short to be a distance runner, but he's a great competitor and he gets the job done. I always laugh when I read that for some reason. That 8th grade season would be the start of a career that would see 3 All-State awards, 4 All-League finishes, 3 MVPs in cross country, an MVP in track, and the school record in the mile. There were a lot of great times and favorite races. But looking back at all of those memorable moments, the 2 that actually stick out the most involve my 2 coaches. Beginning of senior year, Mr. Clark pulled me aside and said to me, he says, you know, even if you have another undefeated season, I can't give you another MVP award because I don't believe the same person should get the same award all 4 years. So at the end of the season, when the sports award banquet had been held, the next day he told me to stop by his office, which I did, and there was another trophy in there. And it was a duplicate of the 2 that had been awarded the previous evening for MVP and most improved player. He said, I wanted to give this to you. He said, I got this out of my own, I paid for this out of my own pocket. He said, I wanted to give this to you. And he said, I wanted to give it to you last night, but it's not a regular award, so we have to do it this way. And the inscription on it just says, Neil Hickey, Triton Boys Cross Country for athletic excellence. I just want to publicly thank you and say that I appreciate that more than a 4th MVP award. And finally, my other coach, Mr. Henry Sheldon. He was my phys ed teacher and track coach, all 6 years at Triton. During my eighth grade class track season, I ran the Boston Junior Marathon and finished 2nd. There was a picture of me in the new report and who was finished in that race. And I remember going into Mr. Sheldon's office later that year and seeing that picture on the wall. I never thought anything about it. Many years later, while watching my nephew play sports, that's right, and I stopped by to say hello. And that picture was still in the office. Kind of left me speechless. So then, a few years ago, when Henry passed away, shortly thereafter, that picture was sent to my house. I have it framed today in my own home. But it's to know that a coach that I had admired and respected all those years had kept that picture was the greatest athletic achievement I've ever had. So, with everything being said, I guess that little kid from Plum Island who was short for his age, who was small for his age, and his legs were too short for a distance runner, I guess he got the job done after all. Thank you.
The next person that we'd like to introduce will be introducing somebody that I know is very important to her father. Allison Babcock will be introducing Mark Babcock. Allison.
My name is Allie Babcock, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight on my dad's behalf. I know I speak for my whole family when I say how excited we are to come and support the man who supports us every single day. Dad, thank you for being our coach on and off the field and our cheerleader no matter what. Your passion for the game is inspiring and has played a major role in making us the teammates and people we are today. So thank you. We are so proud to be a part of your legacy. Dan O'Connell was my dad's hockey coach and a mentor for 5 years and close friend for more than 30 years. Coach O'Connell has a family conflict tonight, so my dad asked me to read his words, which I'm honored to do. From Coach Dan O'Connell. When Mark informed me he was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was honored and excited to be a part of the process. I can't think of anyone more deserving than Mark, and I'm thrilled to speak on his behalf. Before I introduce Mark, I would like to take a moment to congratulate all the current and past inductees of the Triton Hall of Fame, along with the accomplishments of the Triton student athletes in attendance this evening. I especially want to congratulate Neil Hickey, who was a great track and cross-country star during my teaching and coaching tenure at Triton, and Ron Cockran, a huge catalyst growing Triton's athletic success in football and other sports. Mark Babcock was a gifted athlete and leader during his years at Triton from 1981 to 1985. He earned 10 varsity letters during his 4 years, which might not sound like a lot until you consider he did it in only 2 sports. He is the only athlete I know of who earned varsity letters in 2 sports while still in 8th grade. Mark was an outstanding soccer goalie as a Cape Ann League All-Star and All-League selection. He was also a 2-time Newburyport News All-Star, along with being selected Most Valuable Player, twice. The late Bill Young class was Mark's soccer coach, my weekly golfing buddy for decades, and my assistant hockey coach handling defensemen. Bill loved coaching Mark in soccer and hockey, and often talked about Mark's gifted ability along with his great work ethic and leadership qualities. As strong as he was on the soccer field, hockey is where he made his mark. Simply put, Mark Babcock was the best all-around defenseman to ever play at Triton High School. His resume clearly solidifies this claim. He was a 3-time Cape Ann League All-League selection, the 1985 Cape Ann League Player of the Year, a 1985 Boston Globe All-Scholastic selection, a 1985 Boston Herald All-Scholastic selection, a 3-time Newburyport News All-Star selection, the all-time freshman scoring leader, breaking Carl Hampey's record of 33 points, a 1983 Hockey Night in Boston All-Mass Sophomore Team selection, a 1983 Team USA selection for Team New England, a 2-time Hockey Night in Boston All-Scholastic selection, the 1985 Hockey Night in Boston Defenseman of the Year runner-up, the leading scorer for defensemen in 1984 and 1985 for Eastern Mass, a member of the first 2 Triton Hockey Cape Ann League Championship teams, the all-time Triton scoring defenseman with 167 points, one of the top 5 scoring defensemen all-time in Eastern Mass, a member of the University of New Hampshire hockey team in 1985 through 1987, and a 2-time winner of the Doug Foley Leadership Award. Beyond the numbers, when I reflect on Mark, a few things come to mind. First and foremost, he loved the game of hockey. He was a fierce competitor who couldn't wait for game day, but also loved to practice. Monday mornings at 5:30 or Thursday nights outdoor at Governor Dummer Academy in freezing cold temps, he He was the first kid on the ice and the last off. He used to drive his teammates crazy because he was always going full tilt all the time. I remember one critical game when we were vying for a spot in the state tournament. We were down a few defensemen, and except for one shift, Mark played the entire game and loved it. His passion for hockey was indescribable, and he made his teammates around him better because of it. Mark could skate like the wind. For those of you who follow the Bruins, think of Torrey Krug. When UNH was recruiting him, what they commented on was his speed and first pass coming out of the zone. The other thing about Mark that stands out is this. In 5 years, I never saw him get beat one-on-one. Perhaps most impressive was Mark's unselfish play. He never cared about individual accomplishments or stats, only that the team succeeded. In 1983, we were playing in the state tournament against Bishop Connolly. We were up by 3 or 4 goals with a few minutes left to play, and I put in a kid named Tony Maschetto. Tony was a senior with great spirit who was on our 4th line and rarely played. Mark chased on the puck in our defensive zone, went coast to coast, and had a clear shot on net. Instead of shooting, he slid it over to Tony, who scored his first career varsity goal. That's just the kind of player Mark was. In closing, Mark had some help along the way. His parents, Billy and Dutchie Babcock, were the most supportive and classy hockey parents I've ever come across. Congratulations to you two. Well done. This gentleman was a joy to coach, and I am honored and privileged to introduce the finest defenseman to ever play at Triton High School, Mark Babcock.
Wow. I'm completely humbled by what Coach O'Connell had to say, and I'm sad he couldn't be here tonight. His mom celebrated her 90th birthday party last week, and recently went into congestive heart failure. So I know Danny's crushed that he couldn't be here. Our thoughts and prayers are with his mom tonight. So, good evening. I'd first like to thank the Triton Athletic Department and the Educational Foundation for hosting this great event. I'd also like to congratulate my Hall of Fame classmates. I'm honored to be among such a highly accomplished group of people. And to all the current young Vikings being recognized tonight for having a great year, congratulations. Well done, and keep up the good work. During my years at Triton, I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by some pretty special people who mentored, inspired, and helped me find my happy place on the ice. While I wasn't a great student, Triton was a comfortable and safe place for me, a place where I felt I could strive, grow, and accomplish great things in sports. And the person who had more to do that with anything than anybody was Dan O'Connell. Coach O'Connell was my hockey coach, friend, and mentor, my biggest mentor by far. And I'm certain I speak for many of his players when I say Coach O'Connell was a person who made our school world go around. Well, in junior high, Danny would check in on his young and up-and-comers. He'd catch us in the hallways and make sure we were hitting the books and staying out of trouble, which absolutely was not always the case. As we became part of the hockey program, he made himself available to us at any time of day to talk about anything. His door was always open. Coach O'Connell led us to Triton's first Cape Ann League championship in 1983, and then again in 1984. In 1985, we were the preseason consensus #1 team in the state. After more than 10 years of playing forward in youth hockey, Coach O'Connell convinced me as a freshman that my future was going to be as a defenseman, which, back in the day when scoring all the goals was, the most fun and a good part of it, it was hard for me to accept, but it was a good decision, and he was right. And that decision changed everything for me. I ended up being one of the many players he helped with the recruiting process and move on into the college ranks at the University of New Hampshire. Coach O'Connell has 10 Cape Ann League championships. He's one of the winningest coaches in the history of Mass high school hockey and is in the MIAA Coaches Hall of Fame. Today, I consider him one of my great friends, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be standing here tonight. I was also fortunate to have two of the best assistant coaches in the business, in Jerry Ryan and Phil Youngclaws. As Danny mentioned, Phil also coached me in soccer and passed away a few years back, and I feel him tonight, and I really miss him. He's a fantastic guy. I was lucky to have played with some outstanding players and leaders during my 4 years at Triton, starting with Carl Hampy, who many of you know. Carl was a senior captain when I got brought up to the varsity in the 8th grade when the team ran into some injury problems. He had both the freshman and all-time scoring records in the Cape Ann League, and I wanted to emulate him in every way. Ryan Holt was probably the best left winger Triton ever had, and he was our captain in 1983 when we won our inaugural championship. Bob Corkum and I were co-captains, co-Cape Ann League MVPs, and Globe and Herald and Hockey Night Boston All-Scholastics together in 1985. He was a great teammate and friend who I played against in Hockey East when he was at Maine and I was at UNH. Bob is already in the Hall of Fame. He was in the inaugural class, and after an amazing pro hockey career, will probably go down as one of the greatest hockey players, or if not the greatest hockey player in the Cape Ann League for many years to come. Just a phenomenal athlete. More than anyone, I want to thank my parents. My siblings and I were blessed to have the ultimate sports parents. Perfect mix of supportive, encouraging, and present. My dad worked for the phone company for 45 years, more than 45 years, and never took a promotion because he wanted the freedom to be at every one of our games for every afternoon and on weekends. I have 3 siblings who are all in sports, and I know of very few events that they miss in all those years. It just occurred to me a few years back, we tried to figure out how many hockey games my mom had been to, and I think it ended up being like 2,600 hockey games over the years, which is incredible. So thank you, Mom and Dad. In closing, as I mentioned, I never considered myself much of a high school scholar, and athletics helped me stay focused on other things in life. The best gift that I got from athletics was the interest and desire to bring up my 4 kids in a sports environment. And regardless of the sport, I loved every minute of watching them participate and share many of the same life lessons that I learned during my years at Triton. Thank you, Allison, for presenting tonight, Luke, Kate, who's also here, and Bridget, who couldn't make it tonight, for that gift. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you again for this great honor.
Great job, Mark. Congratulations. The next person that we would like to induct into our Hall of Fame will be introduced by his brother, Mr. Antoine Lee. Antoine will be introducing his brother, Shane Lee.
Fast, strong, stunningly handsome. But enough about me. I'm here on behalf of my brother Shane Lee, who's been a hero of mine for a long time. Shane was a beast. 34 career touchdowns, 212 carries per season. He was an inspiration to everybody. He owned Triton football during his years in high school. I got you, bro. I don't know what else to say. Like, the numbers speak for themselves, you know. All right, I got you. Kind of a short speech, I know. I had like an hour to prepare, so I'm sorry. But it is my honor to introduce Triton High Hall of Famer Shane Lee. After high school, I didn't really quit with athletics. I kept on going. I went to Rochester Community and Technical College in Minnesota, which is a junior college league, but we play 1A teams like Minnesota, Ohio State, Michigan. Before I get those games, we all won. I'm the junior college running back average leader. I had 700 yards on 125 carries, averaged 6.7 a carry, and that was the national junior college record. I also had around 700 yards receiving, 31 carries, 300 receptions, excuse me, and that was 19.8, which is another NCAA junior college record. And after I was experiencing a lot of head pain, I couldn't really play football, so I found myself coming back to the Northeast and running track at Northern Essex Community College. I wasn't really that fast, but I was still a high jumper. I have the national junior college record at high jump for 7.2½. That's basically all my stats. I just thank Coach Mack, Coach Cannell, Coach Covert, my mother Cindy, Amanda, Ken, Linda, all my family, all the coaches I had during the year, and hopefully I'll be able to come back to Triton and do a little bit of coaching. Thank you.
The next person that will be introduced by her brother and now fellow Triton High School Hall of Fame member, Mr. Con Madigan, will be introducing Maureen Madigan.
Good evening. Brought my glasses today so I'll be able to read these. But congratulations to all the Hall of Fame members. Also Coach Cockran, who I played for and I actually had the pleasure of coaching for. He gave me my first job coaching as a wrestling coach. Learned a lot from the guy. But my sister Maureen, she was a two-sport athlete at Triton. She played field hockey and she was also a track runner. She was also the wrestling manager as well. So I want to start with the field hockey, which was a team sport, and the two teams she was on were unbelievable. I didn't really know too much about field hockey until she started playing, but my father and I went to almost all the games, and we learned as we went. But the teams she were on were Cape Ann League champs in 1987 and 88. They were undefeated in the Cape Ann League in 1988. Maureen was voted captain of the 88 team. She got the Coaches Award in 1988. And the team was also Division II North Sectional finalists 2 years in a row in 87 and 88, playing Watertown in the championships both years. That team I remember, a lot of really good athletes on the team with Maureen. There was Missy McNeil, Judy Fields, Buffy Corkum, Karen Graham, Patricia Haywood, Stacy Bolio, Lisa Kelly. And the thing I remember, they played great defense. They were tenacious, and they just got after people. And Maureen was one of the leaders out there. She was always after the ball, defending, going for a goal. And one of the things I remember, Amesbury was a big rivalry of Triton back then. They had a girl named Christy Gleason, who was like an All-American field hockey player. But every time they played Triton, they would just shut her down and try to become away with the W. So that was her field hockey career. As far as track goes, we kind of knew Maureen was special when she first, I say during the bicentennial celebration, 1976, we were down in Salisbury. They had like a town day. So they had a race for 5-year-olds. They lined them all up at the old Salisbury Memorial School. So it was all boys and girls, probably about 25, 30 people, kids, if I remember correctly. Some were running in different directions, but Maureen knew where the finish line was. And she went straight for it right away. Won the race. And we used to kid around the fastest kid in Salisbury when she was 5 years old. After that, at our house, we had when she was in elementary school, we had a walkway that ended at the front door, and then we had dug a trench. We were going to go around to the back door with the walkway. We never quite made it. A lot of sand there. We have pictures of Maureen practicing the long jump when she was probably 10 or 11 years old. Both legs in front, perfect form. So we kind of knew she was going to be special. Once she got to Triton, she was on the team as a freshman. She only considered her average freshman, but she was on varsity. Most of the races she took like second or third. And kind of her coming out party was towards the end of the year. They had the Northern Area meet at Lowell, and they put Maureen on the 4x200 relay. So she was like the third leg. She got the baton. They were in third place. When they came around the corner, they were in first place. And I remember the coach talking to him after the meet. He was kind of surprised by how fast she was, and he was thinking she was going to have good things going forward. So the following year, at her sophomore year, was kind of her coming out party. She broke a number of school records at Triton. I'll just kind of read through the list and tell you a couple of memories I have of her running, because I did attend most all the meets. My father and I would be regulars at the Triton track meets. In 1985, they were the Cape Ann League champions. That's when she was a freshman. She was captain of the track team in 88 and 89. She was team MVP in 1987, 88, and 89. Newburyport All-Star team, 87, 88, 89. Runner of the year in 1989. By the time she left Triton, she held 6 school records: the 100 meter, the 300 meter, the 100 meter hurdles, the long jump, the triple jump, the 4x400 relay. She held 2 Cape Ann League records: the 100 meter hurdles, 2 Cape Ann League records, the 300 meter hurdles. She was a league record holder all 3 years. She continued breaking the record: 87, 88, and 89. Those 3 years, she was undefeated in the Cape Ann League in the 300 meter hurdles. She was a league record holder in the 100 meter dash. Now, something about Maureen, she's very competitive. So her junior year, she took second in the 100. she lost to a girl from Masco named Debbie Boyle. Debbie Boyle broke the league record Maureen's junior year. So Maureen pretty much did hurdles most of her senior year. When it got down to the Cape Ann League track meet, you're only allowed to do 3 events. So she told Coach Carey, Coach, I want to run the 100. He's like, well, I'd rather have you do the relay. She goes, I really want to run the 100. Because if she ever lost to somebody, she was going to track that person down and make sure she beat him. So she raced this girl, Debbie Boyle, down at Masco. That was her home track. And Maureen came out of the blocks like lightning that day and ended up breaking the school record and the league record in the 100. So pretty impressive. Her main event was the 300-meter hurdles. Her sophomore year, she was kind of fooling around in practice like we all did when you did track, hanging out on the mats. But she was jumping a couple of hurdles, and Mike Carey said, hey, I think I want you to try out the hurdles this weekend at the Warrior Classic up at Winnicott. Now, this meet, they had teams from Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. It's a pretty big meet. So she goes, yeah, I'll give it a shot. So she's a sophomore trying the 300-meter hurdles. She ends up winning the race and breaking the school record in her first time running the event. And the one thing about Maureen, she was always about continuous improvement. She every year she kept improving, breaking that record. I think every time she ran, she improved her time. Just some of her accomplishments in the 300-meter hurdles. She was the Warrior Pro-A Classic champ in 88, 89, MVP of the meet in 1989, and the meet record holder. She was the Northern Area meet champ in 1989, undefeated in the Cape Ann League, 87, 88, 89. Cape Ann League champ, 87, 88, 89. Third in the divisional states in 1987. Second in the divisional states in 1988. First division state champ in 1989. Fifth in the All-States in 88. Third in the All-States in 89. Sixth in New England in 88. And then in the New England's, interesting story about the New England's. New England's were the same day as graduation. It was like June 10th. So she had to make a decision if she was going to go to the New England's or go to the graduation. So she kind of made the determination that very few people make it to the New England's and she's not going to miss her opportunity. So she did go to the New England's, and she had one of her best races. Actually broke the school record again for the umpteenth time. Ran like a 44.2 and ended up taking second. She lost on a lean. The thing with hurdles, most hurdlers, girl hurdlers are between 5'7" to 5'10". My sister Maureen's 5'2". So that means she has to probably take an extra step between every hurdle to get there. So her goal, being a good sprinter, was always to be the first one to the hurdle, make sure she'd get to the first hurdle first and stayed ahead of everyone from that point on, which she obviously did quite a bit. In the 100-meter dash, we already talked about that, but she went on to compete for UMaine Orono. So as a freshman, she was at UMaine Orono, and she would come down here to racing matches, racing track meets during the winter season and the spring season. She'd be going to like Boston College, BU, Providence College, Brown, all these different places. So after every meet, my father would say, hey Maureen, you want to come home for the weekend? And she'd be like, yeah, sure, I'd love that. So she would come home, and he goes, we'll get your ride home, don't worry about it. So come Sunday afternoon, hey Con, get Maureen a ride back up to Orono. Almost every weekend. Or Katie, my sister Katie, between the two of us, we were trucking her up there. He never drove her up there. So thank goodness she decided to transfer to ULowell for her sophomore year. I was very happy about that. But at ULowell, she had a good career at ULowell. She was captain of the team in 92 and 93. She was a student top 10 GPA award in 91, outstanding scholar athlete in 1982. In indoor track, she was all ECAC in 6 events, all New England 2 events, and a school record holder in 2 events. Outdoor track, all ECAC, 3 events, all New England 3 events, and school record holder in 2 events. So she did have a great career. Mike Carey was her coach, I'm sorry he can't be here tonight, but I was looking at some of the old articles, and there was a clipping of one of them where Mike was talking to the newspaper. And Mike was saying that pretty much any event he puts Maureen in, she'll win it. And he goes, I've been coaching for a lot of years, and there's only so many chances you get to coach an athlete like Maureen. I can't say enough about her. And I pretty much agree with that assessment. So, Maureen, why don't you come on up?
thank you so much. And congratulations to all the high school athletes that are here tonight being recognized for their achievements. I have so many fond memories of doing sports in high school, and I was really fortunate to have so many great experiences, but amazing coaches. And I think I was really spoiled by my first experiences with field hockey, having Yvonne Van Gore as my coach. If anyone knows her or had the privilege of being coached by her, I think everyone would agree that there is not a better coach, high school, club, or college, that could compare to her. She was truly amazing. She was inducted into the Hall of Fame 2 years ago, and that was so well deserved. I know she's back there somewhere, but. But she really poured her heart and soul into the program, and she was able to make championship teams year after year. And Con had mentioned some of the great athletes that we had on those teams, but most of us were just like really scrappy, and we were a lot of perseverance there and tenacity, but she was someone that you just really wanted to win for and do well for. And I don't think I really appreciated just how great she was until years later. And she would, after every single game that we had, we'd go down to the main office and you'd have to get a letter from her. And she would address the letter to you individually. She'd give an overall assessment of what the team's performances, what the team performance was, and things that we had to improve on. But she also gave individual assessments to every single person on that team. And it was so valuable in, working on things that we had to improve and pointing out the things that we did well. And I don't think I really appreciated that until it was the only thing I ever knew. So after that, after years of having other coaches and stuff, I really value the time that she spent on us. And now that I have girls that play field hockey, I would do anything if she wanted to come out of retirement. It would be great. But thank you so much, Ms. Van Gore. And although I love field hockey and I love the team camaraderie, track was really my sport. And the best thing that ever happened to me, I think, was my sophomore year when Mike Carey took over the program. Coach Carey was a football coach, and he was really not a likely candidate to coach girls track. He had absolutely no patience with the emotions involved with some of the girls. A lot of times he'd come up to me and he'd say, "Mo, why is she crying?" And I think she broke up with her boyfriend. And he'd just say, "All right, Annette, don't tell me anymore. I don't want to hear anymore." But he definitely had a football mentality in his coaching technique, and I really responded to that. He wasn't one to give praise very often. He had high expectations, and they weren't unreasonable, but he knew what each of us was capable of, and he expected you to do it. And he wouldn't listen to any excuses if you had a bad performance, and I don't think anyone would even dare to try to give him one. But I think the thing I most appreciated about him was that he had a lot of confidence in my ability to achieve certain goals, and he really made me believe that I was capable of achieving those goals. He always gave me great advice. He pushed me, and he made me a lot tougher than I think that I thought was possible. And the greatest compliment that he ever gave me was when I overheard him talking to my dad, and he said that he wished I was playing football for him on Saturdays. And that's when I knew that he thought I was all right. But the one person I have to mention before I leave is the person that I wish was in the room more than anyone tonight. My dad, who was also my best friend. And he showed up to every single game, both high school and college. And I just remember a sense of calm coming over me the minute he would enter the area. But he always encouraged me, and we shared some of my best memories with my father were spent on a track or on a field. And he supported me through so many good times and great performances, but more importantly, he was always there for me when things were tough. And he always encouraged me to fight through it. He was just an amazing person, and I know he'd be thrilled to be here tonight. So to the committee, thank you so much again, and to all of my friends and family that are here tonight, especially my husband Tim and my girls Megan and Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing this with me, you guys. I love you. Thank you.
The next person that we're going to introduce will be introduced by your former coach, Steve Melanfant. And Coach Melanfant, I hope I'm not going to steal some thunder here, but as I was sitting there talking to one of the tables, we realized that 50% of the 1,000 point scorers for females basketball at Triton is in the room at this time. We've met the latest inductee, and now we will meet the next and the first 1,000 point scorer on the female side. Sorry about that, Jen Macdonald.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight with all these wonderful recipients, the Triton community, and everything that it does for all the people in the community and all the student athletes and all the students of the Triton Regional District. Thank you, Sean, Triton Hall of Fame, and the families of the recipients as well. Jen Macdonald is a worthy recipient of this honor, both from her athletic achievements resulting in her life achievements. The lessons Jen learned on the basketball court are clearly seen in the life she leads as an adult. An active and loving mom and wife, a giving daughter, an honest and reliable friend. These are the traits that she had as a player and teammate for the Triton Vikings. The first time I was introduced to Jen Macdonald was when Bill Fowler and I were watching an 8th grade game coached by Jim Murphy, I believe. And Mr. Bill and I looked at Jen, and after having the teams that we had, we said, she's the real deal. Not only was she the real deal, Jen understood the idea of teamwork, dedication, commitment, as well as having the basketball savvy to lift her teammates to a higher level of play. She made everyone around her better, including her coaches. She had an immediate impact on our team. Initially as a freshman, we did not put her in the point guard position during game situations, although it was obvious she could already handle the ball quite well. Any new wrinkle we threw at her, she adjusted and became better. We knew it was difficult for a freshman to adjust, but she was not alone. She had Melissa Murphy with her as well, best friend. It worked well having these two friends together as the yin and yang of our team. Although we were knocked out of the tournament that first year by Saugus, we knew we were going to be better. Jen took me aside and promised that we would not lose like that again. Each year as Jen grew, so did the team. She was the consummate team player, and her unselfish attitude brought the best out of her and gave her Cal All-League All Honors in her junior and in her senior year, as well as Division II Player of the Year in the Cape Ann League her senior year. A Cal championship came, an Eastern Mass North title, an Eastern Mass finalist, but the road to All-League honors, state honors, as well as a scholarship to Bryant, came with hard work, balancing school, soccer, softball, as well as AAU basketball to reach her dreams. She's the best at everything she does because she is driven and competitive, but also kind and empathetic. She understands people. Her statistics speak for themselves. She led the teams during my time with over 1,000 points, the most assists in my 11-year period, the most steals, which I was most proud of because she did so well, and was in the top 3 in rebounds. By percentage, she was second only to Erin Johnson as a foul shooter. She could do it all. We always added something new in her 4-year career, and she was always able to adapt to what we added. It made it more difficult for teams to play against her because of her ability to adjust as a player. She has overcome adversity in her life, using all the life skills she developed as both a player and student along the way without reserve. She and Dave are raising 2 amazing children, Talia and Ashton, who are just as quick and caring as she. And trust me, you don't want to be around Talia too long. She will not let go of your leg. She has taught them that they can be anything they want to be, just as Red and Judy did with her and Eddie. There is 100% support. She has been taught to be happy and positive. As a player, she brought that positive attitude to the team, to every game we played. If we lost, she was upset. but almost immediately was ready to move on to the next challenge. In my final 2 years as head coach, Jen helped us on a regular basis as assistant at Triton, willing to give back to her alma mater. It has been a privilege to see her growth as a woman and to see her become the outstanding business person, mom, wife, and daughter who has turned to be the individual we all thought she would be. I present you, Jen Macdonald Mariano.
What an honor it is tonight to be inducted into the Hall of Fame here. I just want to thank everyone in the induction committee for their support tonight in inducting me. Congrats to all the other inductees and all the high school athletes that are here tonight. I also want to especially thank my dear friend, Coach Mr. C, one of my best buddies. I feel so lucky to be a part of this group in this school. I remember back when I was in middle school looking at private high schools and wondering if Triton would be a good choice for me. The best decision I ever made was staying at Triton and getting the opportunity to be a part of a family of teachers and coaches. The coaches really cared. They're the ones that made a difference in my athletic career. They made a difference because they went above and beyond just being a coach. They cared about us and the people that we became. They helped us in every way possible, from sitting in the bleachers, doing homework together, as Mally would do many times with me, as well as going through the college recruitment process. Mr. C went above and beyond the call of duty as an athletic director to help me with getting recruited into the college programs. They'd never even heard of Triton, but yet he was able to get coaches to come watch our games. All of my coaches had such a great impact in my college career and high school career because of the lessons that they had taught me through high school and the ability to become a leader and also overcome adversity. These skills are the things that I was able to transfer into playing college basketball, as well as escalating myself in a sales career and being able to have the strength to fight through going through cancer last year, where I continued to work through 6 months of chemotherapy. None of my accomplishments would be possible without the Triton community and the work ethic I learned from my parents. The perseverance that my parents have always had through good and bad times has been a great example for me. I also want to recognize others that had a profound impact on my athletics. My Uncle Rick, who's here tonight, who pushed me to focus on sports. He was the one that taught me how to play basketball. He taught me how to shoot the ball, told me that if I worked really hard that I'd be able to earn a scholarship. That's something that stuck with me. Jim Murphy, who's also here tonight, who recruited me onto the first basketball team that I ever played on. He taught me the fundamentals of basketball when I knew absolutely nothing. He drove me to countless games with his daughter, Melissa Murphy, who's still my very good friend today. Let me stay at his house many weekends when my parents were busy working so I could get to the games. And he also spent every Sunday with Melissa and I in one of the gyms at Triton, going through plays of other teams, figuring out how to do press breaking, whatever it took in order for us to be prepared for those games. He was there with us every weekend. Mally, who challenged me daily to get better, to be a leader. He wasn't afraid to get in my face, even some days made me cry. But we rallied. Seriously, he made such an impact on me with his commitment to win. We have some really great memories to look back on, and I feel it's all because of the quality people associated with the school. Thanks to my other coaches, John O'Leary and Jim Hanum, who coached me in soccer and softball. So for the high school students here tonight, value your time at the school, because not everybody has the experience that you have. Thanks so much for everyone that's here, and good night.
The final inductee into this year's Hall of Fame class leaves a mark on all of us, and that includes somebody that had not even met him, like myself, on the first day of the job. I was introduced to some of the coaches, and the first thing they said is, you know what, as long as you do a tenth of the job that Cockran did, you'll be all right. And that just kind of showed you the type of job that Mr. Cockran did and left the mark on the Triton athletic program. And it's funny, when you talk to the previous athletic directors, and you look at Athletic Director Anderson and Athletic Director Elizabeth Cockran is now at Amesbury as the principal, they all followed in the footsteps of Mr. Cockran, and then we try to take some of the things that he built here and to try to keep those going. So to introduce Mr. Ron Cockran is Mr. Les Murray.
Thanks, Sean, Hall of Fame Committee, members of the Triton community. It's been a long time since I've been back at a Triton event and been able to speak, other than the scholarship that I usually give my parents. Ron Cockran, a little bit of history there, and I'm not sure everybody in the room knows that, but Ron was on Stan Bonalevich's staff for many, many years. And during that time, they were one of the most unprecedentedly successful football programs in Eastern Massachusetts. Triton was in a little bit of a doldrum at that time. We'd gone through several coaches. We weren't winning. We weren't doing well at all. And I remember my dad, who was on the committee, came home when they decided to hire Ron Cockran and said, those days are over. Excellence is coming to Triton High School. It's going to be in the form of Ron Cockran. And you'll see, Les, he's going to turn it around. And he knows football, he knows kids, he knows the organization, and you're going to see things that you've never seen. In 1982, I was fortunate to be a member of Ron's staff. It was my first year. I can tell you it was a little bit of a rocky year for me. First practice, I'll never forget it. We had our team meetings and so forth, and Ron assigned the linebackers to me. Told me everything to do. Gave me 15 minutes. We went teams up. Linebackers came back. They had no idea what they were doing. And Ron, in his indubitable way, got me aside, and he said, listen, a body part was used. You need to have 10 more minutes, take the linebackers, and do with them so they understand what they're doing. This was my first lesson in results teaching, because what he added after that was, if you don't do it, this will be your last day. You'll be the quickest assistant coach firing I have ever had. 10 minutes later, those linebackers knew what they were doing, I can assure you. That didn't stop the lesson for that day, because what I would learn later on was, Ron was setting the tone. Ron was going to tear me down, and he was going to build me up, believe me. But we went offense teams up. And I'll never forget Mike Carey, who had coached me in high school, Hal Ryder, who was the head coach when I played at Triton High School, and Tom Dorman from Hamilton Wenham running the offense, screaming, hollering. I mean, every play there was something to say. And I was clearly intimidated off to the side. And oh my God, here he comes. And he comes over and he whispers in my ear so the kids don't hear him. And he says, hey, what did I tell you in defense? You told me to coach. What are you doing? You're like wallpaper over here. There are 11 people going one way, and you need to say something. One more time. If you don't, just go in the school. Right now, go. And the eyes are bulging, and everything's going, the veins are coming out of the neck. Everything's there, okay? That's what he does. So I learned real fast. 5 years later, he had assigned me to do the analysis of different teams in the Cape Ann League, and we began to win. We began to do things that had never been done in analysis of film and so forth. And one day he paid me the ultimate compliment. I went into his office, and he said, Les, you don't have your master's degree. No, I don't, Ron, I don't. You need one. I have connections at BC, Barry Gallup. I can set you up to get your master's degree. You probably could have a future in this game. He said, but you'll chase the dream. You'll probably be divorced. Your wife will leave you. You'll work 20 hours a day. You want me to set it up. I said, no, Coach, I don't think so. So that was my relationship with Ron, and what did he teach? Ron taught excellence at Triton. He taught leadership. He was probably one of the finest people I have ever seen to put kids in the right position at the right time. He taught me to motivate kids. He taught me that when you're getting down on a kid, you put your arm around him as you bring him to the locker room and tell him that you care and to get him to come and play again. He taught me how to take kids that thought they were running backs and make them a Triton guard. I don't know if any of you know what a Triton guard is, but a Triton guard is a fullback. He thinks he's going to carry the ball, but he never does. And the 1982 team, Coach Sheehan, we would just kick your rear end, believe me. We'd run kick out till you wouldn't even be able to stand up, but I just had to say that. But congratulations on the great season that Triton had this last year. So to introduce Ron, I can't say enough about what he brought to Triton as a coach, but he even brought more as an athletic director, because not only did he coach kids, he coached his staff, he coached everybody around him to be better. And that was over a 20-year period as a high school football coach and an 18-year period as an athletic director. And I can't say enough about him. The influence he had on me was able for me to become a principal later on and implement a lot of those tendencies, a lot of those skills and abilities. I just can't say enough. I do have to say some statistics here. He met with me 4 times to make sure I got this right. So, by phone, in person, whatever it was just like being prepared again on the football field. But anyway, his career record, football-wise, was 121, 75, and 3. He had, to this date, we are the only team that won a Cape Ann League championship in 1982. He was named the Cape Ann League Coach of the Year 2 times, Newport Daily News Coach of the Year 5 times, New England Football Coaches Coach of the Year in 1995, Massachusetts High School Football Coaches Hall of Fame in 2007, Shriners All-Star Football Game Coach 2 times, Harry Aganis All-Star Football Game Coach 2 times, and also was elected to the Swampscott High School Athletic Hall of Fame. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Ron Cockran.
I'm happy to be here with all the inductees, but I got some friends here, some former players here that I was talking to them before we sat down for the meal, and they had a couple of stories they claim I told them back in halftime of a game back in the 80s, but I'm not sure if that's true. It's like Les mentioned some of those things. And Les he's a Triton grad, and he came back after college. He came back to be a teacher coach, and he was an assistant in football, but he's also the head girls basketball coach, and he had some outstanding teams. But what can I say about Les Murray that he hasn't already said about himself? And most people understand what I'm saying. And so those of you that know me know that I'm not one to seek the spotlight. Unlike some of the coaches I worked with over the years, like Coach Mack, Coach Cannell, they just wanted the floodlights on them. They'd tell the team, just follow me to the promised land. We had all that type of diversity back there in the old days. But I love the guys. And Dick Bazigan, the self-promoted mayor of Newbury, he asked me to introduce himself tonight. I'm not going to. First of all, I would like to thank the committee, the athletic director, Sean McGinnis, for doing a great job. This is not an easy thing, and you make it look so smooth and make it look so great, and it's great for the district. And a special shout out to the chairperson of this event, Stacy Bolio. She did a great job. And I do want to congratulate all the inductees. It's a special group of athletes. It was great hearing all the different stories, and it's mind-boggling, the stats that most everybody had. And Maureen Madigan, I don't know what else you can say. She had the whole package, along with the other inductees, especially Jen Macdonald, who was affectionately known as Jenny Mac back in the day. Our principal, Mike Ward, is not here tonight, but when he was, when Jen was in high school, he was the principal, and he thought he was the Isaiah Thomas of basketball. And he would go down to the gym and at the beginning of the season and challenge whether it be the girls' team or the boys' team. And Jen Macdonald put a whipping on him. And so he'd come back and say, you know, she had her foot in the line, that wasn't a three-pointer. I mean, if he was here, I'd really kill him. Jen Mack was special. And this, I'm proud to share this moment also with two coaches that were inducted 2 years ago at this event, the late Henry Sheldon and Yvonne Van Gore. It doesn't get any better than those two. And besides Henry and Yvonne, this is just a little AD speak. I had the opportunity to work with my good friends Carol Christie, Brad Smith, Donna Anderson, the entire phys ed staff for over 20 years, and we had a good time. There were several other head coaches and assistant coaches who I worked with, and at the risk of not slighting anyone, I just want to thank them for all their contributions to their individual sports and what they did for the Triton athletics and the Triton students. And also, a big part was putting up with Baker Village. And the people that made the athletic and the phys ed department's office work behind the scenes stuff. I see one, Karen Atherton's here tonight. She did a great job straightening out all of us, especially me. And the late Mary Trentini, just a wonderful lady. And I said this years ago, she was the real athletic director and I was her assistant for 12 years. And we had others that worked in our office. Matter of fact, two of the women that worked in our office ended up going down working at the superintendent's office. And they're still down there today. They jumped ship with us and went down for the big bucks. That was Lee and Patty. We didn't pay much, but we entertained a lot. But as the football coach, everybody, you get more credit than you deserve. You get more static when you're down, when things don't go well. And I understand that's all part of it. But I share this honor with a lot of people that travel down this road with me. And my assistant coaches, the administration, the booster clubs, all the fundraisers that everybody had to go through. And I know currently you go through them today. And we had, the user fees and the budgets are cut, but people went above and beyond, whether you're selling programs or doing something in the food stand or at games. It was just everything we did, or the boosters or the parents did, was for kids, and that was the bottom line. And that was what those things I remember. Everything didn't go smooth sometimes, but the kids had a way of bouncing right back and taking care of the situation that might have been a bad scene at one point. I was hired in June of 1977 as a football coach, and I apologize to those that were not even born then, but just try to bear with me for a few minutes. I was fortunate my first 2 years in 77 and 78. I had two captains that I got the job late in the year, and the two captains I had were already elected. So who knows, I didn't know how it was going to work out with them, with me, or the adjustment we had to make, but I got real lucky. And two captains, one was John Nealon, a quarterback, and the other is Joe Gamage, who's a tight end. He's sitting right over there. And these guys did a great job, because when I came into the situation, things weren't going great, but they made the adjustments, we made the adjustments, and in 1978, the late Doug Foley was our captain, one of the best players to ever play here. And the reason I looped those two teams together is we had a good mix of sophomores, juniors, and seniors, more juniors and seniors that complemented each other. And what we were trying to do was we're just trying to build a foundation to get the football program back on track. And we were able to do that over a period of time, those 2 seasons with Joe and Doug and the underclassmen. And once I've rewritten this several times. Once I stop mentioning everybody's name, I'm going to leave somebody else. I don't want to do that, but I was very fortunate in 77, my first year in 78, to be able to. We started to win some games, and by winning some games, football became fun again. Because they went through a lot of adversity, but nothing went right for a couple of years. And that's why I really have a lot of respect for those 2 years. Now, when we get to the 80s and 90s, one thing I will tell you, and most coaches will tell you, we had talent. You know, we had talent, and I don't mean just if you had an all-scholastic or you had an all-league. I'm talking about the average player that wanted to be there, played a little bit, try to push them to play a little higher level, a combination of all those things. And we were very fortunate. Not every year, but we were very fortunate because once things got rolling in the early 80s, once things get rolling, the competitive aspect came out, but more important, the confidence. And once we had the confidence, and one of our goals, and I hate to use the word goals, and everybody uses the word goals when something happens, but we were trying to just become a team that we could take on and play with everybody in the Cape Ann League. And we couldn't do that when we first got there, but we sure did it as we got through the 80s and 90s. And those are great times and great memories. And tonight, a couple of the former players that are here, Woody and Bernsey, back in the 80, and McCall back in the 88 teams, we're just talking about how was it, what's my memories of the Friday night football over at Newburyport. Well, when we came in, Newburyport was about the only team that had lights in the Cape Ann League, and the only one that had the lights probably till, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s they did. And Jim Stalen's here tonight, the head coach back in those days with Newburyport, and they were the team that we all wanted to aspire to because they were just tremendous. And we, on a Friday night at Newburyport, once we got into it, because you got to remember, Triton parents were graduated from Newburyport, the kids were playing at Triton, and when they were, if you were a senior or junior, I should say, back in 1970, and Triton was built in 71, you transferred over, and so it became like a rivalry because it became a big deal. So the Friday night game, is from 78 on, every other year we'd be playing it. And we made a big deal out of it. The kids did. At school on a Friday, we were going to Newburyport. It wasn't one of the educational learning days. It'd be nice. Everyone's looking forward to. Everyone's looking forward to the 7 o'clock kickoff, or depending on your perspective, the party central afterwards, depending on who you were. It was a great time, and at that time we had the stands behind us, and the student body would fill the stands with the parents, and We had a lot of great games over there in Newburyport. We played pretty well over there over the course of my 10 years going over there. And for whatever reason, though, when Newburyport came to Triton, Newburyport did a job on us. So I don't know what the reason was outside of the coaching. But the Friday night thing was special because if we played well, had a big crowd after the game. We're down by the buses and the band and the cheerleaders. Everybody's coming by, and kids are all happy. And I myself could look at the big picture just standing down there in the end zone and say, boy, I'm a lucky guy to be here. I could see the three towns coming together, just a combination of stuff. That was very, very important to me. And I do have some people here tonight that I'd like to introduce. My cousin Tracy and her husband Ed. Ed was a graduate of Triton. And my cousin Tracy, she's about the only normal one in my family. And I do have some coaches out back there. Doug Wood from former Amesbury coach, like I mentioned, Jimmy Stalin, Fran York, some riffraff. They don't want to. I do appreciate you guys coming. But in closing, I would just like to say that Triton gave me the opportunity, and I'm forever grateful. As I said earlier tonight, there were a lot of people that traveled down the road with me. I mentioned some of them tonight, but the game days were great. I mean, the up and down, the emotions were running high. You're up, you're winning, you're losing, all that stuff, and that was all great. But I'll tell you, the most important was building the relationship with the players, the managers, and everybody connected with Triton football. And that's what's so special to me, and it's been my honor and privilege to have played a small part in the athletic program. Thank you all very much.
What a great evening so far. We just have one last award that we would like to give out. And Triton Education Foundation each year gives a Community Service and Lifetime Achievement Award. And this year I've asked to be able to present this one. And usually it's TEF that does, and they did grant me the permission to do that because this person is very meaningful to the athletic program and to some of the student athletes here in this room right now. When I think of Triton and I think that first week, there was one coach in particular that came to me right away and introduced himself, and we started our basketball connection, but he made me feel at ease. And in talking with him during that time, it was quite evident that when you have a coach that has over 30 years of coaching experience at the same school, he's an educator for 30 years at that same school. First thing he talks about whenever you meet him isn't his teams, isn't his classroom. It's about Laura and his two sons. That's the first thing he wants to talk about when he sits down. First thing he talked to me wasn't about athletics, wasn't about, hey, what are we going to do about our soccer schedule, which started in 4 or 5 weeks. It was get to know each other, and the first thing he wanted to talk to me about was his wife, and of course sitting poolside and cooking burgers and dogs. And you know, I asked him if he wanted to meet later. He said, well, I got to go home and check. And you know, to me that's very important. That shows what type of a family person he is. And when you talk to his student athletes, they do nothing but rave about this person. When you have a coach of over 30 years that has not lost a step, that has made sure that he has stayed up on the new techniques, I think we need to work on his music choices for the new age, but he's kept up on every other aspect. After a hard game, it's not, jeepers, leave me alone, or I need to be alone, or let me figure this out. It was, what great things we did, and how can we get better? And then of course, he's going home to Laura for dinner, you know, and then he'll take a look down and break it down after that. So when we talk about community, we talk about a gentleman that was raised 2 boys in this town that Triton is in, one of our towns. He's the first one to jump up for community service when a former Triton student and veteran was working on cleaning up one of the cemeteries where it's predominantly veterans that are buried there. He was the first one to jump up, and his boys jumped right behind him to be there at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. There was no question. That shows leadership. And Brad Smith is the leader that we all tried to strive to be as coaches. Obviously, he was taught well by Mr. Cockran and the groups before him and his peers that surround him. So there's a poem on this plaque that I just want to read, because I am a firm believer that coaching is an extension of the classroom. Coaches are teachers, and the athletic fields are our classroom. It says, the Triton Educational Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award is presented to Brad Smith. Teachers paint their minds and guide their thoughts, share their achievements and advise their faults. Inspire love, knowledge, and truth as you light the path which leads your youth. For our futures brightens with each lesson you teach, each smile you lengthen, each goal you help reach. For the dawn of each poet, each philosopher and king begins with a teacher and the wisdom they bring, by Kevin William Hoff. That exemplifies Coach Smith as a teacher, as a coach, and as a family person. And in closing, it says, thank you for being a great educator, coach, community member, and friend of Viking Nation. Coach Smith, when I asked you to come up, I hope you indulge me in this, but I asked that you come up how you would want to come up. I would ask that you and your wife both come up to receive this award.
So, I just am fortunate. I am extremely fortunate.
Go ahead, it's family first, we know.
I just said I've had a good run, and I was lucky to have my 2 mentors here, Carol Christie, who hired me, because she said I showed up to the interview with a blue blazer and gray flannel pants, and that hit the spot. And I learned a lot from Carol, particularly to be compassionate and caring, and your day doesn't end at 2:15. If you're going to do the job, you're there for a long time, and a lot of work's done after school's over. And also to have Ron as my mentor for coaching. He was always there for leadership. I was a soccer coach, he's a football coach. In most schools, there's an issue between those 2 coaching staffs, and you compete for athletes, and there was never a problem. It was always collegial, help me out, do whatever we needed, whatever needed, he was always there. If I had an issue at night, show up at his office, 7 o'clock in the morning, open the door, try to get through all the smoke. But then, he would always sit there, help us out. The other person that I had great influence and helped me out all the time is Tim Cannell. So Tim and I coached over 25 seasons together, and there was a run there. The soccer team was pretty good, the basketball team was pretty good, we were in the state tournament. So we're looking at from August into March that Laura was a single parent raising 2 young, active boys. And for all the time I spent with Tim, I think I spent more time with Tim than with Laura for a while. So a lot of credit goes to Laura for picking up and being a single parent and kind of raising 2 outstanding young men that they also went to Triton. Some people say, well, how can you teach and live in the same district? And it's been just a wonderful experience. One of the things, I only have a mile commute, so that's nice. But there was nothing's ever been negative. We live in a wonderful neighborhood. We have supportive neighbors. The kids had a great experience. Both boys ended up being captains on their teams, and they'd served as daycare for some of the practices, and that worked out well. With the exception of, there might have been, if DYS was watching, there was early on, Kyle might have been 3 years old, and I was actually the freshman baseball coach. Right, Woody? And I had a Saturday practice, and he's like 3 or 4, and he's all over the place. So, what the heck am I gonna do? So, I took the bat bag, put like 2 bats in it, and then tied him to the bat bag so he could still move around.
A little slower.
But it wasn't an issue. And then I remember in my mind, the first time we made the state tournament again in basketball, it was at home against North Reading. Laura's at midcourt, game's over, we finally make it, Yahoo, all kind of bedlam breaks out. And that was an awesome gym with just one side with all stands, a lot of good memories there. But where are the boys? Well, they're typical young kids. They're doing all sorts of running up and down stands, underneath, probably running into the hallways, but they had a great experience there too. And then I even had the good fortune to call and join the soccer staff a couple of years ago, so we got to teach together. And just one last thing in terms of the good memories with Tim. It's not often that 2 educators have the same philosophy, and we did. We were always, you know, could feed off of one another. Tim was like, he saw the big picture. There's a lot of assistants that kind of go after the head coach's job, and he was never like that. He just wanted to see what's best for the kids. And there was a couple of tears along the way, but we had a lot of fun. We had some real good laughs, and we had kids that were a lot of fun to work with too, and that makes it experience. There's some great kids in this district. And the one story I'll tell is this was a really good basketball team, and boys will be boys on Friday nights. After you win, you're home, the kids usually hang around there in the locker room for a little bit longer, take a lot longer shower than they usually do. They're celebrating the win. And this one year, we noticed after every home game on a Friday, they like shower and then they're gone. What the heck's going on? This isn't normal. So, it might have been after the season was over, and we finally asked one of the captains, one of the kids, so where have you guys been? Usually you hang around on Friday nights. And they said, Coach, we thought you knew. Now that they lowered the age of kittens, after the game, the whole team goes up to kittens, and we get in and watch a performance. That's awesome! It was a lot of fun. We had some great kids. And they were big, there was no drinking, they just, it was the aesthetics, I think. So in closing, I want to thank the TEF for all you do for making up the balance of what the state should be helping out Triton with. And you've certainly made a huge difference in what we can offer to the kids, to all the work that Sean and Mac and Stacy have done in organizing tonight. There's a lot of behind the scenes work, and certainly appreciate all that they've done. And I can't say enough of my time here. The 32 years went really fast, really fast. I was the rookie, the young kid, and I really didn't know anything. And now I'm the old guy, and I really appreciate the people that were there from it. It's nice to see Yvonne and Ron and the people that I didn't know how good I had it until it was too late. And now, as I'm about to leave, and that's a rumor, I'm not retiring, okay? That's a nasty rumor. I will be here back in the fall, even though I am getting a sense that I feel like I'm in the Eskimo culture, and when the elders get a little too old, they put them out on the ice floe and send you off. I'm getting that sense. But then top to bottom, leadership-wise, between Brian and running the district, and Tim running the high school, and Sean in the athletic department, it's an exciting time to be at Triton. You guys don't realize what a great job those administrators have done, and what they're achieving, and the future's really bright. So thank you, and I'm done. Thank you.